All right, so we're diving deep today into the world of status games.
Ooh, fun.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know the obvious ones. The flashy cars, designer labels, you know,
Right.
the classic I've made it signals. But what about the stuff that's not so in your face?
Yeah.
What if, like, even rejecting all that material stuff is actually part of the game?
Yeah.
We've got some sources that dig into this, and honestly, it gets pretty wild.
I'm ready.
Okay, so one of them jumps right in with this statement. The pursuit of money is evil.
Okay.
So on the surface, sounds like someone's rejecting the whole wealth thing, right?
Yeah, it sounds like taking the moral high ground.
Exactly. And that's where this whole status game thing comes in.
Oh, I see.
Because by saying money is evil, the person speaking could actually be trying to put themselves above everyone else.
Oh, look at me. I'm so much better than you.
Right. I'm above all these shallow desires.
Exactly. And the source actually points out this kind of funny contradiction.
Where?
If they really think money has zero value, why even bother criticizing people who do value it?
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. It's like the act of criticizing actually creates this whole new hierarchy, a whole new game where suddenly it's moral purity that everyone's supposed to be chasing.
So it's not even about the stuff anymore. It's about, like, what you claim to believe in.
Exactly.
Okay, wow. I'm starting to get a little paranoid thinking about all this. Like, what about all those other sneaky status games out there?
There are tons, like minimalism, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Your sources talk about that. And of course, simplifying your life is great,
Right.
but it can easily become a way to, subtly judge everyone who hasn't embraced that lifestyle.
You know, it's funny you say that. I know exactly what you mean.
Right.
It's that whole, look at me, I'm so disciplined, I'm not controlled by all the stuff vibe.
Okay.
Like, just because they have this perfectly organized minimalist home, somehow that makes them better than everyone else.
And it's not just about physical possessions either, like environmentalism.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Caring about the planet is obviously super important.
Yeah, for sure.
But sometimes it feels like it becomes less about the environment and more about, trying to act morally superior to anyone who isn't as ego-conscious as you are.
Ouch. Okay, yeah. I've totally been guilty of that one.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, I catch myself feeling all smug when I bring my reusable bags to the grocery store.
I see it.
It's like, look at me! Saving the world one canvas bag at a time. It's kind of embarrassing to admit, but yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in that competition.
Totally. So, okay. We've got minimalism, we've got environmentalism.
Oh, and intellectualism. Your sources talk about that one too.
Oh, right. You mean those people who just have to use the biggest, most complicated words?
Yes. And all the super obscure references. Like they just want to make you feel dumb.
Exactly.
Right. Becomes less about genuinely wanting to learn and more about showing off.
It's like knowledge is power. Or like knowing more than you makes me more powerful.
Exactly.
So, okay, minimalism, environmentalism, intellectualism. It feels like anything that can make you stand out can become a status game.
Pretty much, yeah.
Man, this is making me question everything. Like, why are we even so driven to play these games?
Well, your sources get into the psychology behind it a bit.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, we all have this need to belong, to be accepted, to feel important.
Right, yeah.
But the problem is, sometimes that need can get twisted.
How so?
Like instead of trying to connect with people, we end up competing with them.
Yeah.
We want to prove we're better than them.
So instead of just enjoying our passions or actually caring about the environment, it becomes this weapon almost.
Kind of, yeah. And honestly, this can really mess with our relationships and even how we see ourselves.
I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah, I can see that.
There's this one study your sources talk about. It found that the more people chase status, the less happy they actually are.
Wow, really? So all this striving to be better might actually be making us miserable.
It seems that way. It's like when we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone else,
Yeah.
we lose sight of what really matters. We forget to just be.
That's a good point. So we started this deep dive talking about how even like rejecting money can be a status game.
Right.
But money itself is kind of a big deal in our lives.
Oh, for sure.
So how do we deal with that in a healthy way?
Well, one of your sources uses this really cool analogy. Okay. They say money is like a hammer.
A hammer. Okay.
Yeah. Like it's a tool. It can be used for good things or bad things.
Right, right.
You can use a hammer to build a house or to break things.
So it's not about pretending money doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's more about how we use it.
Exactly. And what we choose to prioritize in the process.
So instead of just chasing wealth as the ultimate sign of success.
Yeah.
We should be focused on building a life that's rich in like experiences and relationships.
It's exactly. Contributing to society.
Yeah.
Making a difference.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really matter.
This is really making me think. It's like aligning your actions with what you actually believe in.
Absolutely.
Not just what society tells you to do or what everyone else is doing.
One of your sources talks about how true success,
Yeah,
it goes way beyond those external markers.
I see.
It's about living a life that feels real and fulfilling to you.
That all sounds great, but like, how do we actually get there? These status games just seem so deeply ingrained in everything.
They are, it's true.
Like, where do you even start?
Well, your sources say it all starts with awareness.
Awareness, okay.
Paying attention to why you do the things you do. Why are you drawn to certain activities or possessions or even friend groups?
Oh, wow.
Are you genuinely passionate about them? Or are you just trying to impress someone?
Wow. You know, thinking about it, a lot of my social media use is probably driven by that need for validation.
Yeah.
I'm always comparing myself to everyone else, feeling like I have to present this perfect image of success and happiness.
Social media is a perfect example of how these status games have just exploded in the digital age.
It's true. It's so hard not to fall into that comparison track.
It is. When you're constantly bombarded with everyone's highlight reel,
Yeah.
it's tough.
So how do we break free? Do we need to, like, delete all our accounts and become hermits?
That's one way. But your sources talk about being more mindful of how you use social media.
Okay.
Start by unfollowing accounts that make you feel bad about yourself.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
And instead, follow people and things that actually inspire you.
Yeah. Follow things that line up with your values.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good starting point. But what about using social media in a more positive way?
Totally. Instead of trying to showcase this perfect life,
Right.
we can use it to actually connect with people.
I like that.
Be real, share your struggles, celebrate the fact that we're all perfectly imperfect.
So it's not about denying that we want status. It's about being aware of it
Yeah,
and then choosing to use it in a healthier, more meaningful way.
absolutely. One of your sources talks about shifting from a mindset of scarcity
Scarcity.
and competition to a mindset of abundance and collaboration.
Abundance. Okay, I like the sound of that. What does that even look like, though?
So think about it this way. When you believe there's only so much success to go around,
Yeah.
you end up constantly fighting for your piece of the pie.
Right. Like it's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. But if you adopt this mindset of abundance, you can celebrate other people's wins without feeling threatened.
That's a good point.
Support each other's growth.
Yeah.
Recognize that there's enough for everyone.
It's not them versus us.
Exactly.
We can all win.
Everyone wins.
Man, this has been so insightful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand all this status game stuff.
It's definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Your sources really stress the importance of constantly checking your motivations, being aware of the impact your actions have on yourself and on others.
So before we wrap up, anything else you want to leave our listener with?
Let me think. Oh, absolutely. Your sources talk about this one really powerful idea
Okay, what's that?
that you are not defined by your stuff.
My stuff.
Yeah, like your possessions.
Yeah.
Or your achievements or your social status.
Right.
None of that determines your worth. Your work is inherent.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's like it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in those external markers of success.
It's true.
And we totally forget that we have value just by being human.
Exactly.
Like when you truly connect with that inherent worth,
Yeah.
the need to play those status games kind of just fades away.
Huh.
You can pursue your goals, your passions with real authenticity
Yeah.
and just enjoy the process. You don't need to prove anything to anyone.
So it's not about giving up on everything you want to achieve.
No, not at all.
It's more about like approaching those ambitions from a place of real passion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And inner security.
Yeah.
Like one of your sources talks about finding this sweet spot
Sweet spot. Okay.
where you're striving for excellence, but you're not getting trapped in that comparison game.
Oh, I see.
You can celebrate your own wins and you can celebrate other people's wins.
Right.
Without feeling threatened or like you're not good enough.
And this whole conversation has been so eye-opening.
I'm glad.
I feel like I have this whole new perspective on status games now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And like how they're playing out in my own life.
Well, remember, it's a journey.
True.
Your sources talk a lot about the importance of always being aware of your motivations.
Yeah.
being mindful of how your actions are affecting you and the people around you.
This has been an amazing deep dive, honestly. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been great exploring all this with you.
So, to wrap things up for our listener, we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about those hidden status games, the dangers of comparing ourselves to others, and the importance of being authentic.
We also talked about how rejecting traditional status symbols
Right.
can be its own kind of game, and how it's so crucial to define success on our own terms.
Yeah. If there's one big takeaway from this whole deep dive,
What's that?
it's that status games are everywhere, even where you least expect them.
They really are. It's kind of crazy when you start to see it.
Right. And once you see them, you can't unsee them.
It's true.
But knowing they're there, that gives you the power to choose something different.
Absolutely. It's all about making conscious choices.
Exactly. Your sources remind us that we all have the power to create a life that has real meaning, a
Yes.
life that's full of connection. And that's not driven by needing validation from others.
It's about defining what matters to you.
So, one last thought-provoking question for you to think about.
Ooh, I like it.
Your sources mention this idea of counter-signaling, like intentionally going against common status symbols.
Interesting.
So how could you use that to break free from these status games
Yeah,
in a way that feels real and true to you?
it's a good question.
What does a life well lived look like for you?
Right.
Like beyond all those external things?
It's worth thinking about.
Take some time to reflect on that. And remember, stay curious, stay mindful, and stay true to yourself.